What is up, everyone? And in this video, we're going to be talking about why adolescents struggle with anxiety today. And I'll take this one step further and say why adults and why human beings are struggling with anxiety today. A little bit more than previous decades or generations. It's a little bit unprecedented. Now, some of it is because we finally have the language to articulate what things like anxiety are and seek treatment for it. But there are some serious factors going on. So let's stick with adolescents here. The number one thing is academic pressure and expectations for success. Now, this could also be home life expectations for success. And it's hard being a teenager. It's hard going from being a child to finding this little middle stage that's supposed to prepare you for being an adult. Now, some kids might not be having that academic pressure, but they have pressure in the household. Maybe there's dysfunctional family systems going on. But in general, it's really hard being a teenager and dealing with external pressure because sometimes they don't have the internal fortitude or the emotion regulation or the coping skills to be able to handle that pressure. The next one is social comparison and fear of missing out online. The young kids call this FOMO, but it's fear of missing out. And it's because that when they watch their peers and their friends and the influences in their life doing certain things that they're not doing, they fear that they're missing out on it. And in that comparison, they feel inadequate, less than. And it really drives them and creates a form of anxiety with them that, hey, I need to be doing that in order to feel good. Not knowing that doing that doesn't really impact what that underlying feeling of fulfillment and satisfaction actually is. The next one is uncertainty about identity, belonging in the future. Kids are terrified. What's the number one question you ask teenagers? What do you want to be when you grow up? Well, man, half of them are like, I have no idea. I don't even know what I want to be and who I am right now. So that's something that lingers in the mind of adolescents and this fear of like, I'm supposed to know what I'm supposed to do. I mean, how many adults don't know what's happening in the future or where they're supposed to be or what they're supposed to do? Let alone with teenagers and these vulnerable minds that are constantly being molded and developed into something that is the unknown, the great unknown. The next one is exposure to constant negative news and global stress. I mean, you look at these phones, they could be marvelous tools, they could be beautiful things, but they also expose us to constant trauma. I mean, the worst things of the worst happening in the world are just on a feed going through, and it's like constant exposure. It's called secondhand trauma, vicarious trauma. And teenagers are going through this, and unfortunately, sometimes their cell phone becomes their prison. The only thing we get back from a cell phone is a bill. And unfortunately, kids are just locked into these things at such high paces and frequencies. The next one is lack of healthy coping skills for managing stress. We all have these things called the ability to cope and emotion regulation. It comes from a part of our brain that needs to be fully developed, the prefrontal cortex of our brain. Sometimes these adolescents don't have that stage developed. Actually, all the time they don't. The prefrontal cortex develops until we're 25 years old. That's why teenagers make such impulsive, risky decisions. So when it comes to dealing with things that cause anxiety, they are not able to self-soothe and self-regulate that anxiety. So if you are a parent that's wondering if your kid's struggling with anxiety and why, not necessarily has to be the things going on in the family system or the things that you think they are. It could be their own world, their own experience. And the most important part is to not take it personal. So hopefully this video helped any parent out there that's worrying if their kid's struggling with anxiety. For more information, more content here on adolescence, feel free to come back to our channel. I'll do my best to continue to upload videos that may help you in your healing, recovery, and transformation journey of your family. Thank you, everyone. Until next time.